Judah. And now, if we're going to talk about King Dawid, we at least need to know what he looked like. Along with his queen, who ruled by his side with the rod of iron. What was their sign, so that you can recognize them today? The true rulers of Jerusalem and the warriors of the Most High Yah, his battle axe and weapons of war. What was their profile, so that you can recognize it today? I'll tell you what, let's settle this once and for all. Let's take a look at the profile of the sons of King Dawid. Make way for the king, for the king, for the king, for the king, for the king. And now let's review the profile of the Spanish and Portuguese Jews. We'll do this by reviewing the description of color in references older than the 1900s. And we'll also take a look at the hair texture of the Spanish and Portuguese Jews, along with cranial analysis, the study of the skull. And we'll also review descriptions of the lips of the Jews. And finally, we'll take a look at DNA, using DNA and the Bible. When we combine all these attributes of Spanish and Portuguese Jews, we will be left with one and only one conclusion: the true description of the sons of King Dawid. And the following reference reads, and it reads, thus the black color is found not only in individuals as the black Jews of Portugal. And the next reference reads, and it reads, the Jews of Portugal are very dark. And the next reference reads, the brown Jews of Portugal and Spain. This reference reads, swarthy in Portugal and in Spain. And the next reference reads, and it reads, when we look around us in this great metropolis and behold, amid the chosen people, the Hebrew nation, the descendants of Abraham, every variety of complexion, from the fair-haired, rosy, and ruddy-faced Englishman to the crisp, frizzled-haired, and dark and dusky countenance of the swarthy Negro. Now note that both the Jew and the Negro were referred to as swarthy. And now let's take a closer look at the hair texture of the Jews. For this, let's review the Lachish relief in the British Museum showing the Jews' hair from 701 BC.
So let's continue down the line. We've got more slaves that are leaving the city. Now somebody tell me the difference between this guy and this guy. Whose side do you think this guy's on? The Assyrians, yeah, the conquerors, the Assyrians. And whose side do you think this guy is on? The slave, yeah, the people from Israel or Lachish. You can tell also by their distinctive hairstyle depicted in archaeology. The slave, yeah, the people from Israel or Lachish. You can tell also by their distinctive hairstyle depicted in archaeology. The people from Israel or Lachish. You can tell also by their distinctive hairstyle depicted in archaeology.
And next, let's review the skulls of the Spanish and Portuguese Jews. The skulls of present-day Negroes are called dolichocephalic. And ironically, the skulls of Spanish and Portuguese Jews are also dolichocephalic. As the following reference reads, and it reads, Spanish and Portuguese Jews are dolichocephalic. Negroes and Spanish and Portuguese Jews have the same skulls. Another shared trait between the Negroes and Spanish and Portuguese Jews involves the lips. Both Negroes and Spanish and Portuguese Jews have the same lips. As the following reference reads, and it reads, in form and feature, they are short with dark hair and eyes, a swarthy complexion, full lips, and a characteristic nose. Sorry to break the news to you, but the truth is the truth. Oftentimes when people hear the facts, they are horrified. When they realize that they have treated the children of Israel most wickedly, others, upon hearing the truth, will simply go into denial. However, it doesn't change the facts. There's an additional powerful piece of evidence which proves the identity of Spanish and Portuguese Jews, and it involves DNA. Today we can use DNA to compare one person to another to see if they are related. However, this is not the DNA analysis we can use to find the true identity of the Jews today. This type of DNA test assumes that the people in Jerusalem today are the real Jews. However, we cannot make that assumption. And that's because the scripture warns us that someone will steal Judah's land and steal their identity. Revelations chapter 2, verse 9 reads, I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews, and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. With that in mind, we cannot assume a person is a Jew just because they say they are. We need to prove it. And to do that, we need to use the Bible with DNA to find the truth. For example, the Bible tells us the 12 tribes of Israel shared a single forefather called Jacob or Jacob, renamed Yisrael. The Bible also tells us that the children of Yisrael had 4 emas or 4 mothers: Zilpah, Leah, Rachel, and Bilhah. In other words, the 12 tribes of Israel was made up of one father and 4 mothers. With that in mind, we can use DNA to see if the Negro has one forefather and 4 mothers. Now, DNA does indeed reveal that the Negro does share a single DNA forefather called E1B1A by geneticists. DNA also reveals that the so-called Negro shares 4 DNA mothers, referred to as L3, L2, L1, and L0 as well. Here we see the Negro's DNA matches the Bible perfectly. Now that that's out of the way, there's another important piece of history you need to know about, fam, concerning these Negroes of Spain and Portugal. And for this, you may want to sit down. To begin, we turn to the book of Jeremiah as we read about the fate of Jeconiah or Yeconiah, son of King Jehoiakim of Judah. The Most High Yah tells Jeremiah the prince of Judah will be led away captive into Babylon. And the Most High tells Jeremiah what will happen to the prince of exile and his people. Let's begin with Jeremiah chapter 24, verses 1 through 6, and read about the vision the Most High Yah showed unto Jeremiah. Jeremiah chapter 24, verse 1 reads, "And Yah showed me, and behold, 2 baskets of figs were set before the temple of Yah. After that, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had carried away captive Jeconiah, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, and the princes of Judah, with the carpenters and the smiths from Jerusalem, and had brought them in Babylon. One basket had very good figs, even like the figs that are first ripe, and the other basket had very naughty figs, which could not be eaten. They were so bad. Then said Yah unto me, What seest thou, Jeremiah? And I said, Figs, the good figs very good, and the evil very evil, that cannot be eaten. They are so evil. Again, the word of Yah came unto me, saying, Thus saith Yah, Allure of Israel, like these good figs, so will I acknowledge them that are carried away captive of Judah, whom I have sent out of this place into the land of the Chaldeans for their own good. For I will set mine eyes upon them for good, and I will bring them again to this land, and I will build them and not pull them down. I will plant them and not pluck them up. And so the Most High Yah foretold the prince of Judah's captivity and eventual freedom from the Babylonian captivity. And so Jeconiah, son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, went into captivity. It's here we find an interesting connection with the Spanish and Portuguese Jews. You see, when we look at their lineage, which goes all the way back to King David, we see a forefather on their ancestry tree named Jeconiah, the prince who was carried away into captivity into Babylon. The people whom the Most High Yah called the good figs. The people whom the Most High said he would send into captivity for their own good. In other words, the people of Jeremiah chapter 24 verses 1 through 6 are literally the forefathers of the Spanish and Portuguese Jews. When the Jews came out of Babylon to rebuild Jerusalem, we again find another forefather of the Jews as Spain and Portugal. Nehemiah chapter 7, verse 6 through 7 reads, These are the children of the province that went up out of the captivity of those that had been carried away, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had carried away, and came again to Jerusalem and to Judah, every one unto his city, who came with Zerubbabel, Yeshua, Nehemiah, Azariah, Ramiah, Nahamani, Mordecai, Belshan, Mespereth, Bigva, Nahum, Benayah. The number, I say, of the men of the people of Israel was this. You see, the Jews of Spain and Portugal are the descendants, get this fam, of Zerubbabel, as listed on their own lineage. That's right, fam. The black, Spanish, and Portuguese Jews are the Jews of Nehemiah, verse 7, verses 6 through 7. The very living descendants. These are the Jews who were the first to return to Jerusalem to rebuild the city. These were the Jews who came out of Babylon and returned to their homeland. Now, keep in mind, fam, the Limber also have an oral tradition of coming out of captivity from Babylon. Their ancestor is listed in Nehemiah chapter 7, verse 38 as Senah. And if you're wondering, so why does your DNA closely match the DNA of the member? It's because your forefathers were there together. They are your brothers and sisters. But wait, fam, there's more, much more. The lineage of the sons of Zerubbabel eventually gave rise to a descendant in Spain called Yahya, who eventually became a people called the Negro. That's right, fam. The descendants of Jeconiah, son of King Jehoiakim, king of Judah, eventually became a people called the Negroes in Spain. Facts. And there's more. You see, fam, before the Yahyas moved to Spain and Portugal, we can find them in Babylon with a particular title. Members of these brews in exile were referred to as the head of the exile. They were called by the Hebrew words Ha-Rash Gola, which means the head of the exile. As the following reference reads, definition of Nasi. And Nasi is the Hebrew word for prince. And Nasi was another title for Yahya Negro. Now, let's read the definition. It says, Nasi, in the period under discussion, a member of the Exarch family, which means the princes in exile, which claim descent from King David. Let's drop down to where it says, Rosh Hagolah, head of the diaspora. Exarch, right? Exarch, princes in exile. You see, fam, the Yahyas in Spain were called Negroes, and they were also called Nasi, which is a Hebrew word meaning prince. As the reference states, they are a member of the Exarch family or royal family in exile. And also note the term Rosh Hagolah means head of the diaspora or Exarch. In other words, the Yahyas bore multiple titles, which meant princes or nobles in exile, such as Rosh Gola and Nasi. Let's take a look at the definition of the word exarch in the Webster Dictionary, and it reads, exarch, one of a line of Jewish civil and judicial rulers of the exiles in Babylon from about the 3rd to the 10th century, to whom the Jews in all countries paid tribute. And now let's read the definition of the word exarch in the Jewish Encyclopedia. And the following reference reads, exarch, title given to the head of the Babylonian Jews, who from the time of Babylonian exile were designated by the term Gola or Gullet. The chief of the Gola or prince of the exiles held a position of honor, which, recognized by the state, carried with it certain definite prerogatives and was hereditary in a family that traced its descent from the royal Davidic house or from the royal house of David. So as you can see, fam, the exarchs were the head of the Jews in exile in Babylon. And as you'll read in the following references, they also moved to other countries where they served as exarchs there as well. However, in those other countries, they were called exarch under a different name. However, before we read about these alternative names, let's look at the definition of Rosh Gola in the Strong's Concordance. So that's Rosh or Rosh, Strong's H7218. That's Strong's H7218. It means captain, chief, or head. And then there's Gola, which is H or Strong's H1473. That's Strong's H1473, which means exile. You see, fam, it was the prince of the brews, the descendants of Jeconiah, son of King Jehoiakim, who became known as Nasi, which means prince, who then became Rosh Gola, which means the head of the exiles. As the following reference reads, from Nasi to Rosh Gola. In fact, David pursued his aspirations to high office in a more gradual fashion. Between 1082 and 1089, Documents call him merely Nasi, or Davidic dynasty, which is after all what he was. Only beginning in 1085 was he called Raias, leader, not yet Reyes al-Yahud. Although he seemed to have exercised Mavoric's prerogatives already and had indeed usurped his office, then in 1090 and 1091, David appears with the title Rosh Hagolah, head of the diaspora or exilarch, a title that was meant to convey the status and privileges of the Rayas al-Yahud, that a leader from the venerable line of exilarchs in Iraq was now the Egyptian Rosh Hagolah, stood as yet another symbol of how the Iraqi center had transplanted itself onto Egyptian soil, but it was a transformation that had come about over the course of decades. The title of head of the diaspora changed over time and place. At one point in time, it was called Resh Golas. As the following reference reads and reads, the Babylonian title of the spiritual prince was Resh Golah, the head of the exile, who got his title through hereditary election and endorsement by the Persian king. The Resh Golas, or the exilarchs, were far inferior to the spiritual princes of Palestine, although the former executed a more forcible power. Now, let's take a closer look at the title Rosh Hagolah. Now, a closer look at the title Rosh Hagolah reveals a shocking truth about these princes of exile, or these exilarchs. The original title of the name for the prince of Judah was the word Negid. That's right, fam, Negid. Negid. It means prince. And the original title of the descendants of Jeconiah, son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, was Negid Hagolah, which means prince of the diaspora. And better yet, in Spain and Portugal, in particular in Granada, they were simply called Negid Yisrael. That's Negid Yisrael. As the following reference reads, the original form of the title was Negid Hagolah, prince of the diaspora. Moses B. McVora bore, among others, 4 titles in which the word Negid occurs. The official title of Samuel of Granada was Negid Israel. Now note, in this reference, Rosh Hagolah in Spain, or the prince of the exiles in Spain, was called Negid Israel, or Negid Yisrael. He was a Negid. He was a Negid. I know, fam, it's a lot to take in. However, there's more. As the following reference reads, the full title he used was Negid Hagolah, prince of the diaspora, the origins of the office of the head of the Jews. And the next reference reads, Atta, the leader of the Jewish community, to whom Hayagah granted the title Negid Hagolah in 1015. You see, fam, the word Negid was spelled differently in different ways over the years. Negid was synonymous with the Hebrew word Nagid, which also means prince. As the following reference reads, it is uncertain whether there was a Nagid named Mordecai. The expression Mordecai Hazeman is probably appellative, addresses him as Negid Am-El, which is quite distinctive. His full name would then be Mordecai ben Harabiah. He was succeeded by Abu Manassar Samuel Hananiah, who was Nagid at the time of Judah Halevi. He is not to be confused with Samuel Hanagid of Spain, as he is even in Sabari. And the next reference reads, the title captain or Negid of God's people, commonly used of David, is Wait, what? Say that one more time. It reads, the title captain or Negid of God's people, commonly used of David, is Hold up. Wait. You trying to tell me
that King David, Granddaddy KD, was called Negid in the Bible. What? By the Most High. The Most High called King David Negid or Negid in Hebrew? All right, we got to see this. Let's take a closer look. As we read in previous references, the word Negid is used interchangeably with the word Negid. The word Negid means prince, ruler, captain, or leader. And now let's read a few Bible verses which use the word Negid, aka Negid. 1 Samuel chapter 9 verse 16 reads, "Tomorrow about this time I will send thee a man out of the land of Benjamin, and thou shalt anoint him to be Negid over my people Yisrael, that he may save my people out of the hand of the Philistines. For I have looked upon my people, because their cry is come unto me." 1 Samuel chapter 10 verse 1 reads, "Then Samuel took a vial of oil and poured it upon his head, and kissed him, and said, Is it not because Yahuwah has anointed thee to be Negid over his inheritance?" 1 Samuel chapter 13 verse 14 reads, "But now thy kingdom shall not continue. Yahuwah has sought him a man after his own heart. Yahuwah has commanded him to be Negid over his people, because thou hast not kept that which Yahuwah commanded thee." 1 Samuel chapter 25 verse 30 reads, "And it shall come to pass, when Yahuwah shall have done to my Lord according to all the good that he has spoken concerning thee, and shall have appointed thee Negid over Israel." 2 Samuel chapter 7 verse 8 reads, "Now therefore so shalt thou say unto my servant David, Thus saith Yahuwah Zabaoth, I took thee from the sheepcote, from following the sheep, to be Negid over my people, over Israel." 1 Kings chapter 1 verse 35 reads, "Then you shall come up after him, that he may come and sit upon my throne. For he shall be king in my stead, and I have appointed him to be Negid over Israel and over Judah." So you see, fam, King David, along with other kings and princes in Judah and in Israel, were called Negids, and they were called Negids. All right, fam. Well, let's get back to reviewing our references. And the next reference reads, "The title captain or Negid of God's people, commonly used of David, is now applied to Hezekiah because he was David's true follower." The same acknowledgement of Hezekiah's faithful following of David appears in the expression, "the God of David, thy father." And the next reference reads, "Yehoiada, Negid of the Aaronites." And the next reference reads, "New sources concerning the Negids of Kairon and Ar Nissim. Negid originally was not the name of an office, but an abridgment of a title, Negid Hagolah, the prince of the diaspora." In other words, fam, the Brews used the word Negid to replace the words Negid Hagolah, aka the prince of the diaspora. The word Negid is a Hebrew word, Strong's 5057, meaning prince, ruler, a leader. And the next reference reads, "The Negid of the people of God was saved from the snare of the fowler and the noisome pestilence. He was forced to go into exile in the province Al-Fuyum for an entire year, and thereafter in Alexandria, until the time that his word came to pass." You see, fam, the people who were called Negids or Negids were the head of the exiled Brew community of Judah. As the following reference reads, Negid, the head of the Jewish community in Islamic countries. In the Middle Ages, beginning in the 10th century, there were Negidim in Spain, Kairon, Egypt, and Yemen, in Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. There were Negidim from the 16th to the 19th centuries. Now notice, fam, the words Negidim is simply the plural form of Negid. Now in the States, we would simply call them niggas. This brings us to an important point, fam. The Negid, or Rosh HaGolah, or Prince of the Exiles, they eventually moved to Spain and Portugal, where they gave rise to the Yayas, who then gave rise, you guessed it, to the Negroes. As the following reference reads, the Exilarchs. The Rosh Golah, or Exilarch, or Prince of the Exiles, was a hereditary position of honor tracing back to the royal house of David. Yaya. The two sons of the martyred Rosh Golah of Babylonia, Hezekiah, fled to Spain. They came under the protection of Yosef ha-Negid ben Samuel. Skipping ahead, that is why upon his execution his two sons sought refuge in Spain, a country where Jewish princes governed. Jews led armies in victorious military exploits, and Jewish learning was at a very high level. Skipping ahead, he lived for some time in Saragossa and was under the patronage of Shamuel ha-Negid. We have no further information concerning how he might be connected to the Yaya line, other than he is mentioned as a Yaya in Shalshelet al-Kabbalah by Gedaliah ibn Yaya. Nor do we know the names of Hezekiah's two sons. They lived with Yosef ha-Negid in Granada until he was murdered in 1066. One brother then went to Saragossa, where he married. His descendants became prominent in Aragon and surrounding areas. The other brother went north and then westward. The next name in his line that was confirmed is his son, Chaya, which we can find on the lineage of Yaya listed as number 45. And the next reference reads, the two sons of Hezekiah fled to Spain and gave rise to the Ibn Yaya family. Let's read a quick reference about Yaya, where it says he flourished in Lisbon in the 11th century and died about 1150. He was held in high esteem among the Jews, and King Alfonso I honored him for his courage. After the conquest in Santura, the king presented him with two country houses that had belonged to the Moors, wherefore he assumed the name Negro. And the next reference reads, Yaya, a Portuguese family of the Middle Ages, members of which were prominent in Portugal, Spain, Italy, and Turkey. Certain individuals of the family bore the additional cognomen or last name Negro, with reference to the Moors from whom several of their estates had been obtained. The more prominent members of the family are as follows. Alright fam, so let's review what we've learned so far. We learned that Jeconiah, son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, went into captivity in Babylon. There he and his descendants stayed until they left Babylon under the name and the lineage of Zerubbabel. This event, of course, is captured in the Bible. We also learned that the descendants of these exiles were called Rosh HaGolah, or Exilarch, meaning head of the exiles. Exilarch had to be from the line of King David. We also learned that these princes of exiles were also called Negid. We pointed out Yaya was also called Prince or Nasi. We then reviewed the title of the Prince of the Exiles in Spain was Negid Yisrael or Negid Israel. We also learned that the sons of the Negid Hezekiah fled into Spain and gave rise to the Yayas and eventually the Negroes. I know fam, it's a lot to take in, and most high willing, we will review additional information about the Negids who became slaves in a later video. However, before we close out this session, I'd like to leave you with the following reference, which describe the fate of the Negids, or the princes of Judah, in Spain. As the following reference reads, whether from fancy or pride, it was supposed that the Spanish, or more correctly the Sephardic Jews, were the posterior or the noblest tribe, and included among them descendants in a direct line from King David. Hence the Jews looked upon them as a kind of Jewish nobility. And now these exalted ones had been visited by the severest affliction: exile, compulsory baptism, death in every hideous form by despair, hunger, pestilence, fire, shipwreck. All torments united had reduced their hundreds of thousands to barely the 10th part of that number. The remnant wandered about like specters, hunted from one country to another, and princes among Jews. They were compelled to knock as beggars at the doors of their brethren. And with that, fam, I bid you shalom.